Welcome, everyone. I'm Carl Brook. I'm president of the Environmental Peacebuilding Association, and we're delighted to welcome you to today's webinar on using Strata, a geospatial tool for integrated analysis and environmental peacebuilding. Today, we will explore the latest version of Strata, which is a geospatial data platform that identifies and tracks where environmental, climate, and security stresses converge with socioeconomic vulnerabilities and instability. This app was built for practitioners, analysts, and policymakers who are seeking to assess and monitor where climate and environmental risks are converging with other vulnerability factors. During the session, participants will hear about the features and functionalities of the platform and engage in a hands-on exercise to learn how to navigate it. There will be plenty of time for questions, further discussions, and feedback. We have three people who have been leading the development of this platform today with us. First is Celia Halla. Celia is the program manager at UNEP's Environmental Security Unit. She currently leads the UNEP EU Climate Change and Security Partnership, which is working to scale integrated responses to climate-related security risks by strengthening environmental analysis for conflict-affected contexts, testing innovative programming approaches in the field, and supporting multilateral, regional, and national policy developments. As part of this role, she oversees the development of Strata. In parallel, she leads projects ranging from environmental and climate-related assessments to field projects aimed at using climate adaptation interventions to prevent conflict and build peace at the local level. Celia joined UNEP in 2009 and has had several roles in the organization, including as country manager for UNEP in Haiti and manager of the UN program on gender, natural resources, climate, and peace. She's also the co-editor of the UNEP policy series on environmental dimensions of disasters and conflicts. She holds a bachelor's and master's degrees in humanities from the University of Geneva. Next, we'll hear from Yasmin Moura. Yasmin is a remote sensing scientist with over 12 years of experience. She holds a master's and PhD in remote sensing from Brazil's National Institute for Space Research, INPE. Currently, Yasmin works as a land monitoring expert at the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations in Rome. In this role, she contributes to the development of Strata, an online tool and data analytics platform focused on climate security. Camille Rahe, is a geospatial specialist at UNEP. She's currently coordinating Strata. In parallel, she creates guides and talks on cartographic content with the British Cartographic Society. Previously, Camille worked on restoration projects in Northern Ireland, Nigeria, and Brazil. She holds a bachelor's in geography from Bournemouth University. And today we'll start with an overview of Strata by Celia, followed by a discussion of the Strata methodology by Yasmin. We'll have a brief Q&A, and then we will go into a demo that Camille will show us and then set us up for the exercise. We'll break into 3 breakout groups and then do the hands-on exercise for about 25 minutes. We'll reconvene to discuss what the experience was like and conclude the session after about 90 minutes in total. That will leave us with about 30 minutes at the end to discuss applications and connect. But if people want, you know, after 90 minutes, that will be kind of the end of the formal session. We'll be recording the introductory portion in plenary, where we will be doing the overview, methodology, and demo. And then that will be posted to the MPAC's YouTube site. And with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Celia.
Thanks so much, Carl. Can I just confirm that you hear me? Great. So thank you, Carl, and thanks very much to the Environmental Peacebuilding Association for hosting and supporting this webinar. Obviously, the environmental peacebuilding community is very much at the core of what we hope will be a robust user group for Strata, so we're delighted to be able to engage with you all. I haven't had a chance to go through the full list of participants, but I have recognized some old friends as well as many new faces. So welcome all, and thank you very much for joining. The next slide was the program. I think, Carl, you've covered that already quite well. Just to reiterate that, we will try to keep the kind of formal session to 90 minutes. And so if you want to stay with us for an additional 30 minutes, that will be an opportunity to engage in further discussion and answer any questions that we might not have had the time to answer, or might require lengthier answers during the formal session. So please do stay with us if you want. We'll be here for the full 2 hours. But with that, I'll jump in, as Carl said, to the sort of overview of Strata that we'll start with. I think some of you are already sort of familiar with the platform, but just to say that Strata was really developed in recognition of the fact that there is more and more demand for integrated analysis of environmental and climate issues with other forms of socioeconomic vulnerability and conflict, and that are, there's more demand coming from lots of different quarters. We know within the UN system that both UN political and peacekeeping missions, and more broadly, the UN development system is under more and more pressure to report on these issues and to analyze them more systematically. And so Strata was really developed to support all of these various users to kind of simplify this kind of analysis, which many on the ground don't necessarily have the capacity, the time, or the resources to do without a system like this. So in a nutshell, Strata is an open source data tool that helps identify where environmental and climate stresses are converging with other forms of vulnerability, as I said, including socioeconomic stress and conflict. It was designed for a broad range of users, including analysts within missions or resident coordinator offices, if we're talking about the UN system, but really program staff on the ground within a broad range of international and national and local development organizations, and really anyone else, including the academic community, that needs a sort of a simple way to visualize and track these convergences. In terms of outputs, Yasmin and Camille will detail this in the upcoming slides, but Strata offers hotspot maps and statistics at different scales that can be visualized and downloaded in multiple formats and used directly within different kinds of assessments and tasks. Yasmin, you're going a little ahead of me in the presentation, so maybe stay on this one for a minute. Just for those of you who feel like you've attended a Strata webinar or training before, or have certainly heard of the project before, I just wanted to clarify sort of where we stand in terms of the timeline. So Strata project started 4 years ago. With the development of the methodology in 2020. By 2021, we had produced a prototype, really, for Somalia, which was then expanded to the 8 countries of the Horn of Africa. That prototype provided proof of concept, but we hit pause at that point and ran a fairly thorough, lengthy evaluation of the different sort of features and user experiences within Strata, and restarted the project in 2023 in partnership with FAO, and in particular in partnership with the team that developed the EarthMap platform, which is based on many of the same approaches that Strata is. And so basically by the fall of 2023, we were able to recreate Strata within the EarthMap platform, and have since been doing user testing and different kinds of improvements. By August of 2024, so this year, we were able to make Strata global, in other words, covering all countries, and will continue throughout the remainder of this year and next year to add a series of features and improvements that will be detailed at a later stage. So that's where we stand for those of you who'd already heard of the project and were wondering why we were presenting it again. Today's presentation is very much a Strata 2.0, as we like to call it, a global version, much enhanced in terms of features and usability from the prototype that we had engaged with some of you on back in 2021 and 2022. Next slide, Desmond, please. So as I've mentioned, Strata now has global coverage. You'd be able to select any country in the world and run analysis. It uses 26 indicators organized in 3 different baskets: environment and climate, socioeconomic vulnerability, and conflict and instability, as will be detailed by Yasmin very shortly, as well as projections based on 2 different climate scenarios, a sort of a median and an extreme climate scenario, that all come together in a hotspot map and a series of statistics that can be investigated for and supporting any number of analytical needs. And with that, I will hand over to Yasmin for a more technical description of the methodology and features of the platform. Thanks.
Thank you,
Throughout the
Celia.
presentation, I should say that Camille will be posting links to both the platform as well as different kinds of resources that you'll be able to use later on in the hands-on exercise, as well as obviously on your own time. So please keep an eye on the chat. Thanks. Over to you, Yasmin.
Thank you, Celia. Hello, everyone. So we are going to go a little bit deep on the technical aspects of Strata. So, as Celia mentioned before, this new version of Strata is based on another platform from FAO called EarthMap. So it uses the same kind of data structure and infrastructure in terms of database and so on. I think Camille also are going to share these links here. So in terms of the methodology of Strata, Strata uses a conversion of evidence approach developed by the European Commission Joint Research Center. And in simple words, it gathers these different data sets that we call indicators, or these 26 different data sets, and integrate them in a way that is possible to see the interlinkages between each of those data sets that are running the hotspot analysis. These indicators are separated by 3 baskets, as Celia mentioned before. We have the climate and environmental data sets, which you can see the list here, but you can also explore more in details any specific of each data set separately on the platform. And I think we're going to take a look on that later during the exercise. We have the basket peace and security, where the different conflicts are displayed on the platform. And we have the socioeconomic vulnerability basket with also another set of different data sets. So this conjunction make possible for us to adopt this methodology where we can highlight areas of more or less concern now around the world. In an extension to the platform, we also have the addition of climate projections, even though these data sets are not included on the conversions of evidence methodology, but it is there also as a support for users to have a way to evaluate the climate projections for different scenarios in their own area of interest. So it can be like this supportive data set included in the platform. So the features on the platform, it's quite intuitive, in my view at least. I hope you also find like that. But you will be able to kind of choose your country and location and select the layers or indicators to visualize in the platform. Identify stress, which means that you can also check and run some statistics to identify which indicator are the predominant contributing to the hotspot map. You can choose different base maps based mostly on the Google map layout, but also like between dark and more light colors. Strata also allows the users to inspect at the pixel level and also at the regional level. And as I mentioned before, also consult the climate projections for your area of interest. One of the next steps with what we are going to mention very soon is we are developing the visualization of the nature-based solutions catalog, where we'll be able to integrate these data that are already on Strata to view solutions for some of those projects. And of course, there's also the option to export and share. So here is just a few examples of all those features that I've just mentioned. So there is different levels of assessment that can be run. You can go at country level, at regional level, or at even district levels. We use the UN official map, which limited a little bit in terms of some regions we don't have the districts level, but most of them have all the coverage. And through these different levels, you can calculate the statistics based both on the hotspot map or any indicators that you are interested in investigate. So what is the output of this analysis? It basically gives you a strata, what they call it, the strata hotspot assessment, which show kind of the severity of conditions when looked at these interlinkages between all the indicators when putting together through the convergence of evidence methodology. In simple words, you are able to access, for instance, the number of conflicts over an area, what are the percentage of area and population affected by each basket, which means like each of the indicators for climate and environment or vulnerability or population. You can take a look and like see how much actually that indicator is being affected in that location you are looking at it. So here is just to show a little bit of the visualization, how you like click on and off each of these layers that you can see on the platform. And also the different views that you are able to optimize through the Strata web. And as I mentioned, that is the export options where you can share on your social media channels or WhatsApp or email, but you can also, and most important, export the results of your analysis and then go through further analysis on your own if you want. Of course, any platform that presents also some limitations. So we have a very detailed information of the different data sets that you can find on the platform. And these different sources of data also present different methodologies or standards. We do our best to kind of integrate them in the best way possible. But of course, it's important to be considerate. Data is not always from the current or latest year, even though most of them have the latest data sets of that specific indicator. And some data sets have different spatial resolutions between them, which we can try to minimize, putting them all together in the same grid level. While Strata is not a predicate tool, we can still have the climate projections as an indication of what are the conditions in the future for for the whole area that the Strata covers. Strata does not imply correlation or cascading impacts, which is important to consider, especially on the decision level when you use this data for analysis. And as I mentioned before, some of countries do not have subnational boundaries with the UN maps. Okay, I think now, okay, it's still me. So there are some new data that we want to include on the platform, and we've been studying a few of them and look at their own methodologies and specific requirements that needed to be done before the insertion of these data sets. And also we just managed actually to have an automatic way for update all the data sets included in the platform. As mentioned before, we are on the way to implement the nature-based solutions catalog within Strata, which I think will be a very good strategy to matching these local stresses for these projects that are going to be included there. And also some other ways to share the results, including the image itself, and kind of wrap it up the analysis on a PDF report. Yeah, so I think Camille or Celia, now it's over to you.
Yeah, thank you. We're now going to open the floor a few minutes for some questions, more on the technical sides, before jumping into a more practical exercise that you can join or not. But yeah, does anyone have any questions for Yasmin or Celia at this point?
There's a question on the chat, I think. How were the indicators in the platform selected? Yasmin, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So as Celia mentioned before, Strata has a now a quite long history. So all the selection of each indicators were developed back in 2021. There is even a paper where you can check all the list of indicators that were chosen to be on Strata. Maybe Camille could share the link to the paper here. And of course, I cannot explain each indicator specifically because we would be here all night. But anyway, in this paper, you can have the full description and why they were chosen for Strata.
Thanks. Thanks, Yasmin. I think I mean the link to the paper is important. So thanks for posting that, Camille. That was the scientific article that sort of underpins that explains and underpins the methodology. For those of you who are interested in methodological issues, I strongly encourage you to read the paper. We have two questions. I think Tim was first. Go ahead, Tim.
Thanks very much. Hi, Tim, University of Edinburgh. Lovely presentation. Thanks so much. I did have a chance to check out the tool before, and yeah, I can imagine how much work it must have taken to get to this point. Two questions. One on the other tools that exist in the universe of climate security, which they've just sort of cropped up, so we have the Climate Security Observatory and also the Climate Security Programming Dashboard for Climate Finance and sort of various types of tools. So I wonder, what niche are you foreseeing for this tool, or how does it compare to some of the other tools that are on the market? And then the second question is in regards to end users and whether you have had a chance to do end user testing, what the feedback was, and whether you have any end user case studies. And the reason I'm asking is because we at our own research program have put out a tracker of peace and transition processes called the PAX tracker, and I'm always curious to hear how other data and platform providers deal with that issue in this space. Thank you very much.
Sorry, you were muted, Celia.
Sorry. Thank you, Tim. There are a number of questions coming in. I'm wondering if we can take a couple, and then we'll answer what we can now, and then leave a few to the end. So there was also Emily who had her hand up. Go ahead, Emily.
Hi, Celia. Thank you, everybody. I'm Emily Christie from the Halo Trust, which is a humanitarian landmine clearance organisation. I'm really excited about the potential of this to help us out with our work in understanding these different data levels. My question is about data that is rapidly changing. So I noticed on the Strata platform you have some conflict dynamics, flood, fire. I'm interested to know how those are kept up to date, the kind of frequency with which they might be updated, and whether they'll kind of be kept live going forward over a period of months or years.
Thank you, Emily. And then there are a couple of other questions in the chat. One from El Taib: what are the possibilities to add, layer, and information from the user interface? Is it possible? And then finally, one from Tanya: is Strata in any way related to the Early Warnings for All initiative? So let me try and I'll take the questions from Tim on sort of the niche and end users, as well as the question from Tanya, and then Yasmin and Camille can perhaps answer the more technical aspects. I mean, thanks, Tim, for that question. You're absolutely right. There have been many ongoing, parallel efforts to try and develop tools that respond to the need that I was, that I was mentioning earlier, the kind of increasing demand for integrated analysis, and the fact that most people, on the ground who are having to report on these questions don't necessarily have the capacity or the resources to do this kind of analysis. And a lot of these projects have developed in parallel, and it's now quite a crowded ecosystem, so to speak. So very much recognizing that. I mean, I suppose our niche so far is that, I mean, we're so far the only interagency kind of UN platform that provides this kind of service across the board. We have been primarily engaging with UN political and peacekeeping missions, and colleagues such as the climate security advisors who have been deployed within those missions, and who are very often, at the forefront of these kinds of requests from mission leadership as well as their development partners. So our end users so far have been, the ones that we've been engaging with and developing, co-developing analysis with, have very much been within that quite specific world of kind of UN political and peace and security actors who are trying to grapple with the volume of environmental and climate data, and how to sort of access and understand that in terms of responding to requests and meeting the different mandates that they have within the mission. More broadly, I think our end user, I mean, so we have some very specific examples of, the climate security and advisor in Somalia, using different kinds of hotspot maps to engage with mission leadership on kind of priority areas for political engagement around natural resource issues. He's also been able to use Strata outputs to engage with the Joint Command on areas that they should prioritize, or where they need to better understand kind of how natural resource and climate issues are playing into the hands of the Al-Shabaab militant groups, etc. So we have some very specific user cases within the kind of UN political sphere. We're still disseminating the platform. Today's webinar is very much part of that effort to a broader group of users within the development, environmental peace building, more broadly, international kind of development, climate actors, et cetera, et cetera. So use cases are really interesting, but so far somewhat limited. And I suppose that the niche is primarily, for the time being, this kind of initial group of internal users, but very much hoping that it will expand to a broader range of actors. The primary feature of Strata is really its ease of use, and the fact that really no prior technical knowledge is needed to engage with the platform, which I think is still quite rare within the offering. I'm not completely familiar with all the other platforms, so I'm not in any way suggesting that others are much more complicated, but I think that the fact that somebody like me is able to generate these outputs fairly easily is really one of the sort of areas that we're trying to promote in terms of access to information for really quite a broad range of users, primarily people on the ground who are facing these issues every day and having to respond to the demands from their leadership or from donors, et cetera, et cetera. So that I'm happy to sort of engage in a discussion about that in later, but that's sort of primarily the issue, the sort of user group that we've been engaging with so far. Are we in any way related to the Early Warnings for All initiative? No, not. I mean, we have colleagues within UNEP working for the Early Warnings for All initiative that we have been exchanging with, but those are two separate projects for the time being. We're looking at ways to kind of mutualize these efforts overall, and that as we are with other existing platforms and initiatives around data for early warning, emergency response, peace building, disaster risk reduction, et cetera, et cetera. But so far, these are separate efforts. Yasmin, why don't I hand over to you for the answer to the other two questions, and then we'll move on. But again, both within the groups later on and at the end, we'll stay for further question time. So please don't, please don't hesitate to ask those questions or to keep them on hold for now. Yasmin, over to you.
Yeah, so just to complement about the early warnings for all, and one of the main, let's say, that we can call difference between Strata and that one specifically. I don't not to very deep into it, but I know that they use most of climate and environment data sets. So one thing in Strata that may be interesting for future integrations or something like that is we have for socioeconomic vulnerability 11 indicators, so which acts like a weight to determine the hotspot map. So it's kind of important to have a warning system, of course, but you also need to know the aspects of the social components in the area of interest. So I think that is very complementary. So just to add that, because I think what's important. So in terms of the possibilities to add layers and information in the interface, we can add shapefiles, for instance. So let's say if you have an area of interest that is inside a district or a very large area, you can upload your own shapefile into the platform. There is a plus button there in the column. We can show in the demo later. So you can run the analysis in your specific area of interest. We don't have it yet the possibility to insert other data sets into the platform, but at least you can run the data sets available into your own area of interest if you have the shapefile. And I think the other question was about the frequency of update and how do we do that? Well, that is a very good one, because we have recently updated. So to understand that, Strata is based on Google Earth Engine. I don't know how much of you are aware of this platform. So Google Earth Engine is this big data cloud where all the data currently available in remote sensing can be found, basically. There is several data sets on this platform, and most of the data sets used on Strata are from Google Earth Engine. So it's everything in the cloud, and we use the Firebase data management to kind of manage all these data sets and then insert them into the platform. So everything is kind of automatic through coding on Google Earth Engine. So for all data sets that are available on the Google Earth Engine, which are most of them, the update frequency is quite easy because it can be done just by the JavaScript code. Of course, the only limitation is if the data set available on Google Earth Engine have also not very up-to-date availability, but most of them are currently availability. So we can update this frequency very quickly and automatic. For the other data sets that are not on Google Earth Engine, we have a kind of more manual approach where we can go directly to the source of them and check if there are updates. Of course, we have a plan on how to do that, and the frequency we check these updates available on the source of those data sets. And for those data sets that are not on Google Earth Engine, but are quite complicated to process them in a timely manner to have these frequency updates, but usually those are the ones that provide API in which we can use this program interface to connect into the Google Earth Engine platform, and then the update processing directly. So basically what means is that through the code we are using to do all the data sets, mostly, we connect directly to the source, they go get the data and run through our scripts, which allow us to update those data as well. This is an example, for instance, for the conflict data from ACLED, which we do not have on Google Earth Engine, but we do have the API to connect things together. So I don't know if it was clear.
Thanks, Yasmin. I think for the time being, we need to move on. But again, thank you very much for these questions. And please keep any burning questions for later in the program. We'll get back to them and have an opportunity to exchange. So with that, I think we'll move to a quick demo of the platform. Kemi, do you want to lead us into that?
Yes, I'll share my screen. Yeah, the link for the platform is in the chat, or it's right here on the screen.
I will stop sharing then, Camille, if you are sharing.
Yeah. There you go. So when you click on the link, you'll get to the login page if it's the first time you're accessing the tool. Yeah, and for the purpose of today, I recommend going on accessing it anonymously. Essentially, the platform is the same, but with an account, it might save some of the shape files you might import if you're looking at a specific area. So yeah, when you kind of come in, it allows you to choose your country of interest. Here we're going to focus on Iraq, so you can search it indirectly with the keyboard or kind of scroll down the list. And right under there, you're able to select the subdivision. So just a national, regions, districts, or looking at water basins as well. If you want to import your own file, you can click on the little plus here. That allows you to import different kind of formats. And then you'll also see kind of any past uploads you've got. To see the main strata assessment, which is kind of the methodology we explained before, you click on the region, and then, I don't know why it's not. I'm just going to refresh this. There you go. Yep. There you go. It might take a few seconds to load, but then yeah, you'll see the assessment map, color coded. All the legend is in the top right corner where you can see the score. Low is there's not much going on. High, there's a lot of stresses, environmental and political, lots of conflicts. So here you'll see generally cities will have more, but yeah, that's open to interpretation. To see more detail about the region selected, so if we do the whole of Iraq, I click on Iraq, and then they'll give me an assessment for the whole country in this case, with an overview at first on the conflicts, the climate, vulnerable areas, and yeah, everything can be kind of seen into more detail. There's the breakdown of how much of the area and population it kind of affects. There's always more information right by each indicator. But yeah, definitely a lot to look at and consider. And then yeah, we've broke down as well each basket for like environmental stresses. So yeah, all of this can be found on the website for exactly what is included in these baskets. There is more information about each layer right next to it, clicking on the eye icon. So here it says these are all the layers included. There's the Google Earth Engine asset, the script used, more information, where the data comes from. Yeah, so it can be used, in other projects, other GIS platforms and things like that. Yeah, and we have one for each. You can select more than one layer at a time if you're interested in overlapping them. In this case, it might be a bit tricky, but if you want to overlap the, let's say, population exposure with all the conflicts, then that might be indicate a few things, or with the socioeconomic vulnerability. Yeah, you can kind of see how things overlap. And then turning off all of these layers. There's the climate projections. So there's a whole bunch of scenarios for flooding and temperature, precipitation. yeah, we've recently changed the legend, so it's clearer, it's more easy to compare. Each of these are available for 2030, 2050, and 2080. Yeah, so there's really a lot that can help kind of complement the strata analysis and all the other projects around environmental peace building. If you want more specifics on a precise pixel or a very kind of specific location, based on the strata assessment, we can do a pixel inspector, pixel analysis. So you click a point and then go on the little icon here, and then here it gives a very brief summary on what stresses are affecting that pixel. So here it's, you know, around specific streets of the capital. And there you go. Yeah, for the transparency of each layer can be changed here just to get some more context. Again, you can download the layer here in different formats, whether it's an image or something more for like GIS specific software. Again, more information on the layer, so that can be found in a few places, and it can be easily removed from the interface here as well. The map itself can be shared in various formats up here on the bar at the top of the screen, the QR code if you're printing materials. We can change the language. We've got 4 languages at the moment. And then, yeah, you can find the link to the Help Center where you'll find a quick start guide, and it will run over, you know, all these things we've been explaining for the last half hour. Yeah, without further ado, we'll jump into the exercise. I'll stop sharing.